What's up, guys? Welcome back to the No BS Golf Show. As you know, we were out last week and we tried to get an episode out, but sometimes it just doesn't work. And you guys avoided our losing outright picks because neither of us were on Scotty Scheffler. Scotty goes out and destroys the field, makes us look like a little kid course that it actually is. Brad Thomas here with Chris Mills. Chris, how was your weekend?
Weekend was good. Honestly, it was a weekend off because, like I said, before we jumped on, it was the Scotty show. As soon as he was -7 through 9 holes, I mean, that was pretty much it. I have never seen, and been doing this a long time. I don't think I've ever seen a -200 through 9 holes of a tournament before. With 54 holes remaining, Scotty
Yeah.
was -200. So at that point, live betting was out the window. Made no sense. Any outrights that I gave for either first round leader or actually to win made no sense. It makes sense that he did do that, I guess. I think we were all waiting for him to kind of break out of that slump. And
Yeah.
when we say slump, it's just he hasn't won. He's still been pretty solid. But what was he? Plus 280 pre-tournament?
Yep.
We're never going to touch that. So saved some time, saved some money this weekend. What about yourself?
Outrights weren't good. I had Jaeger who gave me a little flirt to start the tournament. At least I got a little excited, but placements 1 and 2, again, placements haven't quite got there. Jake Knapp backdoored the top 40 with ties, which was really nice. I was really excited about round 1, and leading up to this tournament, there was like this notion that this course was going to play tough, and they kept saying it on the broadcast before the golf really started, and I was like, there's no way this course is gonna play tough, like, because you lengthened a couple holes by 10 yards, like, they need dramatic changes for it to play tough, and I went and when they kept saying that, I was like, "I wonder if the books are getting that same information." So I went on, FanDuel and Bovada, and I compared the lines, and Bovada was still had a bunch of guys at 69.5, and I played everyone who had better odds than -200. I lost one. I lost Jordan. Then I played Scotty, 6 or more birdies in the first round. I just thought the books were out of their mind. They did have me worried though, because obviously, 10 and number 1 are not like super easy holes. So when they went like 15 golfers through 1 and 10 and they didn't have a single birdie, I was like, "Oh shit." And I started freaking out a little bit, but then things settled in and a couple guys got me like on the last 2 holes, which was really nice, but like got me the cash, which was really nice. So I fired a little bit of Jaeger, some of that profit into Jaeger, winner without Scotty, and then he plays the last 3 rounds, 1 over par. I'm gonna go back to him in a little bit of a capacity this week, not quite outright, but I do love how he starts fast. I'm excited for this tournament. It's Truist Championship, Philadelphia Cricket Club. The course is just beautiful. I watched the flyover as I do every event, but I watched the flyover this time, and I was like more like watching as like a spectator than trying to kind of figure out how this course is going to play out here. I told the story on the Steffi Smalls show, but it's a Tillinghast design at Golf Channel. All of the meeting rooms in the old studio, all the old meeting rooms are golf architect designs, and the closest one when I did B2B stuff was Tillinghast. So we'd always have meetings in Tillinghast, and all the rooms had like fun facts, pictures, and everything. And so I grown to like Tillinghast courses just because we always met in that room. And when I would like zone out, I'd be reading the stuff on the walls. So it's really cool to go to another Tillinghast course. I think this was his first course. This is his home course as well. Anything about the course you kind of want to talk about before I get into the course specs? I think you might be muted.
Thanks. Yeah,
You
I
did.
did the flyover as well. Looked at all the holes. I think it's important to mention it's par 70, right? Two par
Yeah.
fives. So par five scoring, while it's important, it's a little bit less important this week. I think it's going to come down to who plays the par threes the best. A little bit longer, protected, and you'll notice there's some fescue in certain areas.
Yeah.
So if you're spraying it off the tee, while some holes are birdie holes, those quickly become the bogeys and the other holes. So I think that if you can minimize the damage, if you can play those par threes well. I don't necessarily think it's a bomber's advantage this week. I thought
Yeah.
that originally, but I think that it's, if you can keep your ball in play, I do think a shorter hitter can compete. But I think it's going to come down to that par three scoring for sure.
It was kind of funny. I was trying to draw parallels to a lot of different courses, and I found too many. But I think one thing that I kind of noticed that this could like I felt like this could be like an easier US Open, right? And we think about Brookline maybe as a course. This week, I'm gonna admit I didn't do a comp course model because I just didn't have enough that I thought were close enough. So I'm really just taking an approach of guys playing well, but also taking a little bit of a strategy of like when Wyndham won, what was that, LA Country Club, where we had this notion that you're gonna have to hit fairways, you can't overpower this course, and Wyndham goes out there and kind of overpowers LA Country Club and goes on to win. I'm going to take that same philosophy with one of my golfers, where I have the other golfers who are just playing really good golf, gaining a ton on approach. I don't have an exact science for this week, and I'm more than okay with having a smaller card without truly getting into the weeds of model building or any of that.
Yeah, I mean, you haven't told me, but I can probably already guess who that person is. He's already won this year, I assume.
Yeah, we were on him when he won, and
Yeah.
dude, I just like I was thinking like, and that was the closest comp I thought was Brookline, and it's not even that good of a comp. But
Mhm.
if they play similarly, why not? Why not add in a guy not Brookline, LA Country Club, why not add in a guy like obviously, you know who I'm talking about, we'll get to that. But I don't have any extra frills, or anything to add, so let's bring in our guest, do a quick little interview, and talk some golf and give out some picks there. Our friend, thank you for joining the show, Brian Kirschner at Brian Kirschner underscore. Also has a great podcast that you guys should check out. Brian, thank you for joining our show. I'm trying to pull up your podcast name, Tap In Birdie. I don't even know why I needed to look it up. Thanks for joining the show. How are things going today?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be on. I think this is really going to be a great week, on the PGA Tour. We very rarely get a new course. We very rarely get an East Coast course. I think we all have some issues with the signature event model and only 70 guys and
Yep.
everything. But I really do think this will be a great week for the PGA Tour, and I'll be there Saturday, so I'm very excited.
That's sick. Great course to be at. Let me ask you, what's your favorite course that you've or tournament that you've watched?
I would say my favorite course that I've seen in person would probably be Oak Hill for the 2023 PGA Championship. I've also played there, so I really love that piece of property, and I thought it was pretty good for golf viewing. But again, like I said, there's not a ton on the East Coast, so it's tough. So any opportunity, anything within like a 4 hour radius, I want to make the effort to be at.
That's sick. You have a podcast, and I check it out, which is like it's a good podcast, and it's informative. I think what I like about your podcast is you give your own original take, and that's one thing about podcasts. I listen to a lot of them. People recycle the same kind of information, and I don't even know if they do it subconsciously. But how did you get into golf podcasting and golf betting as a whole?
Yeah, so I started like betting on golf kind of when it came back during COVID. I know that was popular for a lot of people. It was the only thing to bet on. I was golfing at the time. I like to gamble. So I started doing that. And then I think around like the 2021 Masters and that US Open, those COVID Masters, I started just posting my card on Twitter, but I didn't really have a lot of followers or anything. And then I just kind of stuck with it and kept posting my card. And then it was like 4 years ago at this point where I got invited on a podcast to just talk about golf or whatever. And then I was like, oh, this is like really fun. Like it's enjoyable to talk about your picks. There's a lot of great people in the industry and guests to have on. And that was kind of the origin of it around 4 years ago. So it's been a steady climb, but I'm happy and grateful that people like my Twitter and like my podcast and want to check everything out. And honestly, like I've met so many great people in the industry, people that have become good friends to play golf with and hang out with. And it's really just a great community, in my opinion, of, golf betting that we have on Twitter currently.
It's definitely a niche market, right? I
Yeah.
would say, and I think that's what brings a lot of us together in the golfing community. I love your Twitter. I like that you're a little edgy sometimes, and you get the people going. So I really appreciate and like that. But My question I'm interested is, as golf betters, we always have that first bet that we hit, the one that really started the fire and made you really want to continue to do this. And I'm sure you remember it. What was the first big win, or what was the monumental win that
Yeah,
made you this
I
bet?
think the first outright I ever hit was Harris English at the 2021 Travelers. And I was there that Saturday and Sunday and saw it in person. It was like an 8-hole playoff. Like
Yeah,
that really got me going. Obviously, I wasn't betting a lot. Like I probably won like $800 or whatever, but it was still like amazing.
yeah.
That to have the feeling of pre-tournament liking a guy, thinking he's gonna win, and then him going out and actually doing it. So yeah, I would say Harris English, 2021 Travelers. So we're coming up on the anniversary a bit
Yeah.
of that one.
Is that the longest playoff in history?
I
That
think it was up there. I think there might have been another 8-hole playoff, but it
wow.
definitely was pretty crazy.
Especially if you had him pre-tournament, right? You've gone 72 holes and then you have to sweat it out for another 8. We know
With
how
like Kramer
exhausting that can
Hickok,
be.
who hasn't been heard from ever since. Like I
Yeah.
don't think Kramer Hickok has done anything significant in the golf world since that
Yep.
playoff at the
He's actually a
Travelers.
caddy now, isn't he?
I don't know that. I don't know if that's true.
Okay. But yeah, big win. That's a good one. We hit Harris English this year at the Farmers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that was a great bet.
yeah.
Yeah. This has been it's been a fun year. I wish I wasn't going cold right now. Like I shouldn't complain. Like first round leaders are still great, but I feel like outrights is when people really kind of start talking. You're like, wow,
Yeah.
you smashed that outright, and it's been a little bit. It's been a little bit of a dry spell. Speaking of outright, let's get into the tournament. Brian, do you have anything that maybe we didn't add in about the tournament and the course, or kind of a style of golfer that you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you go to a new course, when you go to a course that literally has never hosted a PGA Tour event, it's very tough. And there's only so many things you can kind of glean from it and how it's exactly going to play. But my thing this week is that I think it's open to a lot of different golfers and a lot of different skill sets, which isn't necessarily a cop out. It's more so that I'm not crossing anyone off this week just because of the course length and the course style. I don't believe that you can be too short to win and contend here. I do think just how golf works, like longer hitters are going to have an advantage. I mean, they have an advantage at, the majority of courses. So, and a lot of the best players in the world are super long off the tee. But this isn't a place where I'm going to cross off a guy like Russell Henley or Corey Connors and think that they can't compete here, because when you look at, the scorecard, there's going to be a lot of wedges to, mid irons. And I think when you look at the scoring, again, we don't know how it's going to go, but, when you have only 2 par 5s, it's hard for these guys to get to that 20, under 22 under range. So I think that when you look at the length of the course, and when you look at the potential scoring of like, I don't know, 16 to 19 under, there's no one really I'm crossing off. So I think that, is important because I'm just more open to more guys this week.
I like that philosophy. You talked about my guy Russell Henley. I talked about like possibly betting him, but like everyone I like is super short, so I have to eliminate somebody. I have a couple guys in pocket, and I'll start with my first one. I was quick to the window with Jordan Spieth. Right now on Pinnacle, he's at 33-1, and with Jordan, I was on him for the Masters. I bet him really early because I saw glimpses. What was that at Waste Management when I saw at Phoenix Open when I saw glimpses of him playing some really good golf, finished T4 there, and it kind of became a little scary. And I realized, it's the Jordan Spieth experience. Went on to miss the cut at what was that, Genesis, and then ended up having like a T59 in there. But slowly he's been putting together some really good golf, right? Since Valspar. He finished T12 at Valero, T14 at the Masters, while never like really like being in contention there. And then again at the CJ Cup, Byron Nelson was fantastic. He twice now in the past 5 events, he's gained more than 6 strokes on approach. I think the rust is starting to come off. Maybe even a little bit of that psychological aspect with Justin Thomas winning, right? Like Justin Thomas was going through that. Will Justin win again? When is he going to win again? Had that big monkey on his back. Spieth's going through that exact same thing. But when your buddy gets it done, it kind of gives you a little bit of faith, right? Like a little bit of hope. Like my game's in a place where I can finally start to compete. And so I went with Jordan Spieth. I thought his price was really good at 33-1.
I mean, he looked really good on Sunday,
He looked really
right?
good for 3 rounds, terrible in the first.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like Jordan. It's the type of year where a lot of guys that we've known for a long time are making their comeback, right? Brian Harmon, who hasn't won in what since the Open, he
Yep.
got his first. Justin Thomas in a playoff at the RBC. Scotty just got his. It's fitting that Jordan will win eventually. I don't know if it's going to be in a signature event, but at those odds, with only 70 guys in the field, honestly, I could dismiss half the field
Yeah.
from my betting list right off the bat. So really, if you're looking at it, there's maybe 35 guys that can win this week. So getting Jordan at 30, 30 to 1, 40 to 1, see some serious value there. Brian, you mentioned it. It's a little bit, or you tell me. I mean, it's a little bit early in the season for a northerner type tournament, right? Typically, we see these like end of May, June type tournaments. Um, but there's one player that tends to thrive in northern tournaments. It's not from too far away, but he feeds off the crowd. I think he wants to make this team on his own. He wants to be on the Ryder Cup team. He doesn't want to pick himself because I don't think he will because he's not that person. But I'm going to go with Keegan Bradley, and you can get him at 50 to 1 this week. And this is a guy that's in fantastic off the tee, arguably one of the best iron players. And you already spoke to it. You don't have to crush the ball. He can absolutely still get it out there pretty good. But with his putting, it's improved significantly. His par 3 scoring average is near the top every single year because his irons are so on point. I really like that value. And I think that we've forgotten a little bit about him recently just because he hasn't been playing as often. But if you look at his stats this year,
Yeah.
he's got three top 15s, 5 top 25s. He's a really good pick and some seriously nice value this week.
Yeah, I like the Keegan play. I'm on Keegan. I bet him this week. He definitely shines in the Northeast. He's won at Aronimak, which is a nearby course. He hasn't really gotten a lot out of his game this year. The putter's kind of gone cold
Yep.
on him, but I do think that he could turn it around at a place like this. And again, like he plays well on rainy events. He's won like when courses are pretty soft. So I like Keegan as well. I mean, the last time we got to a new course on the PGA Tour that no one saw before, he won it. I think you saw a lot of veterans kind of at the top of that leaderboard. So I think having a little bit of an experience at a new course will help Keegan a ton this week. And Keegan in the Northeast is obviously a common thing to go off of.
Nice. Clearly, again, guys, people watching, we don't really give our picks out beforehand, so that actually
Yeah.
makes me feel so much better about this pick.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah,
I bet Keegan like every time he played this year, so it's a bit tougher. But I really do like Keegan this week, to be
I
honest.
figured you'd say that you'd have a little bit of Keegan action because
Yeah,
he's a regular on your card.
yeah, I love Keegan.
Give us an outright that you're on, Brian.
Yeah, so I bet Cantlay this week. I think that again, you go back to 2022. We had Country Club of Wilmington host the BMW Championship in nearby Delaware. That was a course no one ever saw before. That was a Northeast bent grass course around one at like 15 under, which I think will be pretty similar this week. And Patrick Cantlay gets it done there. He's a great bent grass putter. He's always historically had a lot of wins on bent grass greens, and the ball striking and the tee to green play has been really good. He just hasn't really found the putter, which I think coming to a place like this could definitely help a lot. But the off the tee numbers have been really good, which I think is going to be really important. He has a really good mix of accuracy and distance, which I think will be huge this week. And it's been a while since he's won. He's due for another win. I think in general, if you play Cantlay in the Northeast, it's a good bet. The number 20 to 22 is whatever. I don't think there's a ton of great numbers on the board this week, so I'm fine with Cantlay 22 that I bet earlier this week.
Wow. I'm on Cantlay as well, and it's funny because I feel at this point like my Discord's like sick of betting Patrick Cantlay. We bet him I think this will be the third time this season, and a couple times he's kind of teased us. Genesis finished T5. We bet him at Amex. Was that Solo 5 T5 at Amex? I'm on him again this week. Bent grass course now, like you said, right? Like his putter hasn't been great, but it just turns into a whole new putter when he plays on bent grass. If you look at a guy who's just like gaining strokes on approach in basically every event he's played this season, there's not many that you can say has done that except for Patrick Cantlay. And it's funny. We talked a little bit about this about off air, and if you take like a top down betting approach with golf, you're gonna have to. I figure you have to need a larger sample size, or you need a bigger bankroll. But just from like a small, very small aspect of top down betting, um, I think Pinnacle is a sharper, like one of the sharper golf betting books that I've seen, and they have his odds like 16 to 1, right?
Yeah.
I bet him at what did I bet him at 20 or 21 to 1, and I had already bet it before I saw that, but it just made me feel a little bit more confident that a really sharp book views him a little bit better than guys like Ludwig, which I think Ludwig could totally win this event, but it just is a little bit of a confidence boost. And I wanted to get a guy who's killing it with their irons, right? Like if you can get a guy who's killing with his irons, gets better on bent grass greens, why not Cantlay? I last time I bet Cantlay was I lied. I bet him, was it Valero? I bet him at the Players, because I didn't think he was gonna play Valero. I had this whole, like, made up thing in my head that Cantlay always plays well the event before a major, not like the specific event, but the event that if he's gonna take, like, the next event off, like, not the week after, the week before, and I had this notion that would happen again. He ends up finishing T12 at the Players. It didn't cash. It cashed his top 20, but I mean, we're rolling right into the PGA Championship. If that made up shit that I just said is really true, why not win right before the PGA Championship?
Yeah, no, I like I said before, I like the bet. I feel good about it, and I'm hoping Patrick gets back into the win circle because it's definitely been too long for him.
Yeah, the way too long. Can't quit, can't lay. That's why I always tweet because I'm always freaking betting can't lay.
You gonna give us another one?
Yeah, I'll give you another one. Um, let me go with I'm going with Minwoo Lee, and he's 50 to 1. I was like thinking about guys like if this becomes a course where it's not super penal, being off the tee, right? And like just a guy who can just go out there, uh, bomb it. And let me reverse this statement a little bit. You hear a lot about these landing zones and having to hit the ball far to or at least carry a significant distance. So when I was like watching the flyover and I was like looking at these landing zones and trying to take it over bunkers and stuff, I didn't really see, like, that much of a difference of where you hit it if you hit it into the rough. Like, it wasn't like, "Oh my god, there's a ton of fescue, 15 yards from the edge of the fairway or versus 5." And I was like, started to get me think I wanted to take, like, a guy who could possibly overpower a course, and it actually led me to Wyndham Clark at first, right? I just remember Wyndham Clark playing at Bay Hill, and I followed him around, and I felt like if Wyndham Clark could have hit more fairways, or the rough would have just been a little shorter, he would have legitimately had a chance to win that tournament. And I thought about with Wyndham, there's just been too many situations this season where his rounds have been derailed by 2 and 3 whole stretches that just totally take him out of contention. And I was like, well, who would be type B? Who would be golfer B? And I look and I see Minwoo Lee. Wyndham Clark, I think at that time was like 45 or 40 to 1. And I see Minwoo Lee sitting there at 50 to 1, already has a win on the season. So he already has the monkey off his back getting that first PGA Tour win. I was like, I can forgive the Masters. Like, I'm not really putting too much stock in that. Then he played at Harbortown, lost strokes on approach. Doesn't like he's not a guy who loses strokes on approach a ton. So if there's a guy who can overpower this course and we can overpower it, Minwoo Lee at 50 to 1 was perfectly fine with me.
Yeah, I like that. I'm not going to give it a chalk bet and say Rory, right? It's not the Wells Fargo anymore. It's a different course. The guy's playing incredible. I'm going to have a prop that's going to be an absolute hammer job for sure, which I'll give out if we want a little bit after.
Hell yes, we
Um, but a guy that I love this week, and he's kind of had a mixed bag this year. I don't think he's really living up to his potential. He started the year off pretty well. His name was popping up everywhere. A little bit of a shorter hitter in terms of tour average, but he's top 10 in birdies. He's top 30 in strokes total. He's top 30 in approach. and that's Akshay Bhatia. And I saw his number in a signature event. Granted, yes, it's a field, but there's no Scotty, right? But at plus 7,500, there's a lot of guys that don't have Batia's game that are much lower than that on the board. So I think it's a really good value play. I also think based on the course layout, I think the fact that he's a lefty is actually going to help him. From what I've seen, it's more, brings the right, left to right ball flight into more trouble. He can kind of hit the ball both ways, but he does hit that little baby fade, from right to left. So I see him hitting fairways. As we alluded to earlier, I don't think you have to be a bomber to compete here. I think if he keeps his ball in play, I think he could be there on Sunday, and I really like that value.
Yeah, I like Akshay. He's had a couple of good finishes on shorter tracks in his career, and he kind of is, a mix of a little above average distance and pretty accurate. So yeah, I like Akshay. I was on it at RBC. He wasn't great, but I think ever since that Players finish where he easily could have been in the playoff, I think people have been waiting for him to have that other good result, and I definitely think it could come this week.
Yeah, Akshay's interesting. Like Akshay's a guy you want with driver wedge, right? Like there's not many golfers that you want with driver wedge over Akshay, especially in that price range. And I did like quick math on the course. It's gonna have like what I think is like 8 of the par fours or driver wedge possibilities for him, which is really nice. And I'm not talking about driver pitching wedge. I'm talking a little shorter. Uh, it's like why not Akshay at that price? I was asked if I was gonna bet Akshay, when I did sports gambling podcasts, didn't get there, but dude, I love Akshay, like personality-wise, right? Like, I don't know if you follow, like, his girlfriend or whatever on TikTok, but dude's hilarious. Him and, Theegala, they, like, team up and do, like, a bunch of funny content. I'll be rooting for Akshay if my guys don't come through.
Yeah, I think he will win this year. It's just does he get it done in a big event, or is it
Yeah.
going to be one of those shoulder events, right? But he's playing less and less of those, right? Typically, you'd see him play a little bit more of the smaller events, but I think he's picking and choosing his schedule accordingly with his 2-year exemption. He's already made $2.5 million this year, right? I don't think he's really struggling to have to play those smaller events.
Yeah, Brian, you have another one for us before we move into the next
Yeah,
section?
I'm on Daniel Berger. He's been really consistent this year. And although, it's not, a Daniel Berger course that people think of like, the Honda or like Colonial, again, I do think that he has the accuracy off the tee and kind of the middle iron play to compete here. I mean, he's won at Colonial, a shorter bent grass course before. And he's just been really, really consistent this year. Like he's just been playing really good golf. I mean, that might not turn into a win, which we like to think it would. But third, 21st, 30th, 20th, 15th, 25th, 12th, second, like he just put together some really, really solid results. And his iron play and ball striking was great at the Heritage, finished third, like backdoor, never was really in it. Just putted really poorly. And, who knows, how things can turn around. So I like his putter to turn around a little bit and really solidify his spot on the Ryder Cup team. That's coming up this September.
Yeah, love Burger. Just getting more and more healthy, right? He's
Yep.
shaking off the
Yeah.
rust still. Let's keep in mind that he was out for what, 16 months? Was it that long? If he picks up 1.2 strokes a day, he'll win. And that all comes down to the putter. More putts
Yeah.
drop, he's going to be there for sure.
Yeah, Chris, I think you have a long shot. That's the bulk of my plays. I think they give everyone out. Yeah, give out your long shot, and then we can move to the next segment.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it out. Honestly, I've been following him pretty closely because I've been on him a couple times for first round. He's a super quick starter. So if we're moving to first round leaders, I'll do a double up. I like him to potentially win, but I do like him for the value on first round leader as well. Showed some serious form with his brother 2 weeks ago in the Zurich. Came out firing in round one. -6 first round. Kind of got overshadowed by playing with Thor Bornson. But that's Rasmus Hogard. I think the kid has serious potential. I think he's kind of following in the footsteps of McIntyre last year. If you remember McIntyre, he struggled here in the U.S. He didn't have
Yeah.
any family. He didn't have any friends, or maybe it was 2 years ago now. but then he won the Canadian Open, then he won the Scottish Open, and then since then McIntyre's really a household name. Højgaard, he's been amazing on the DP World Tour. He has a crazy career there, great track record over the last few years, and I think he's following in those footsteps. I think that he's finally figuring out how to go from tournament to tournament. He's figuring out his, getting his routine here in the U.S. And I see some signs of greatness. So I really like him, and he's as high as 110 to 1. Plus, yeah. So I think that's a really nice value on a long shot, especially with a field of only 70 guys.
Yeah. I don't really have much to say about Mr. Was you on Rasmus or Nikolai? You're on Rasmus.
Rasmus, yeah.
It's hard for me to talk you off a 10 to 1. So let's move over to player props. I only have one. I'm need to ease back into it. I haven't been very profitable, but I'm going with Jordan Spieth, top 20. Finished at the top 24 straight events. I don't have much to say outside of what I've already done, playing really good golf. So I'll kick it over to one of you guys, Brian, if you want to take up some.
Yeah, I as a guy who I'll probably bet, but I don't know if can actually win. I like Harris English. Had a really good finish at the Masters this year. He's played well in the Northeast, like at the Travelers. He was good at that Winged Foot U.S. Open. He's a very good bent putter. I don't necessarily think he is a fit for the Ryder Cup team, but I do think that he's in the conversation at least. And if he could, post top 5 or potentially even win here, I think that'd be good. So whatever, top 20, like most conservative, would probably be around like plus 160 ish. I would like Harris English for a top 20 this week.
Nice, Mr.
Nice.
Harris. What about you, Chris? What do you got?
So for me, I'm trying to understand, and maybe you can talk me off the ledge here. So top Australian, Jason Day just withdrew. So it leaves Minwoo Lee, Adam Scott, and Cam Davis. And you can get Minwoo Lee at almost even money. Minus 110 top Aussie. To me, that's just an absolute slam dunk of a bet. He's got to beat 2 guys. Those are almost his odds for top 20. So for me, take 2 guys. Adam Scott has no form this year whatsoever.
Yeah, he's really fell off. He's been really
really
bad
fell off. And Cam Davis is that guy that'll poke his head up every once in a while. But typically he does that for maybe one round and then he falls back into Cam Davis. He has no control of his driver. So I see him whiffing it, playing in the fescue. Minwoo Lee, Brad already has him to win. I think if you're looking for a little bit of a safety net, something that you can really hedge your bets on, Minwoo Lee top Australian.
Yes, Mr. Minwoo. Go ahead and win it. So that'll just make us both cash. I want to know what your hammer is. What's your hammer?
So the hammer for me is we already talked about him, and me, I try to stay away from favorites as much as possible. I like to get guys live if they are, playing well. If they start a little bit slow, maybe the odds juice up a little bit. But for me, I want to be on Rory this week bad because, he did well for me at the Masters. And honestly, I don't know if he's ever played this well. And you can get him, and me, I tend to go after the nationalities because it condenses the field significantly. But you can get Rory right now at even money for top UK and Ireland. There's 6 players: Rory McIlroy, Tommy Fleetwood, Shane Lowry, McIntyre, Rye, and Rose. For him to beat those 5 guys, you're essentially 25% of what he's getting to beat the entire field. So for me, that's something that I will be on for sure. Which I love about that is because then I can still have a couple flyers that potentially come through while cheering for Rory to beat those 5 guys.
Question for you. Does that dead heat if 2 of them tie?
Well, it doesn't on Hard Rock. They'll pay you in full.
That's sick. That's pretty good value. Do you have any more player props, Brian?
I don't. I don't typically bet a lot of props. I bet my outright card, I bet a first round leader card. I might bet a couple of my longer shots, top 20, but that's usually about it for me.
I used to have a motto that was, the placements pay for the outrights, and this year it's been totally false. And I also think the pricing has been pretty poor in the placement market. It's been on a steady decline since the live golfers had departed, and now the signature events are even shorter fields. So I've been having a tough time finding a ton of value.
Yeah,
Well, look,
it's tough for me because I feel like on any given week you could like the golfers you bet could just not play well,
yeah,
and you're already losing a bunch of money on your outrights on them. And obviously, it's very nice when they play well and they finish top 10. You're like, oh, I wish I bet that, but I don't know. It's just tough to lose both in a week, a bunch of outright money and then placement money just because you were wrong on a couple guys, versus 100 to 1 guy finishes top 5 and you would love to bet that, but that doesn't always happen.
yeah, totally fair. Well, you like first round leaders, so we'll move over there, and I'll just tell you, Rory is the short shot, 12-1. Scotty won it as a favorite, 14-1 last week. Morikawa 22-1, as well as Ludwig and Xander. Justin Thomas 25-1. Patrick Cantlay 28-1, rounding out everyone under 31. Brian, are you going to take any short shots, or do you have some guys down
Yeah,
the middle a
so
little bit?
my philosophy with first round leader, I've gone back and forth. I used to try and target guys I wasn't necessarily betting outright, but I thought were good course fits, but couldn't win. And then I just said, you know what? I like these guys for a reason. There's no real reason that they can't just pop for 1 round. And I probably overrate their chances to win in general. So I'm just going to continue to bet my outrights first round leaders. And that has been somewhat successful for me. So I'm sticking with that. The return in these smaller field events is tougher with the first round leaders. Like Cantley's a better number, but like some other people might be worse numbers. So I have to
Yep.
figure out the return because I usually like to be around like a 120 investment each to win 1,000. I don't know if I could do that this week, but I think I'm only betting 4 guys, so I should be able to. And if I'm a little bit over, whatever. But
Yeah.
my last guy is Hovland, so I'll be betting Hovland first round leader. You look at places that he's contended at: Oak Hill, Millfield Village, Olympia Fields, all bent grass, classical courses. He won the Valspar and he's been solid since. But I think this is kind of the course that he thrives on. So I like Hovland to come out to an early start this week.
I wonder if you asked Hovland what he thought, what he'd say. Honestly,
Yeah.
Who says
no,
some
I don't. I
stupid
have no
shit like
control of
not a
football.
chance?
I don't know where
And
it's
and
going.
also I haven't looked at this yet, but I like guys that are starting on 1 this week because the first
Yep.
couple holes are a lot easier, a lot of
Yep.
shorter holes, where the back's tougher. So I think I'd prefer a guy get in the groove early, and start 3 under through 8 or something, that start on tougher holes, like kind of like we saw with the Byron last week, like 10 through 14 were very tough par fours, a lot of scoring where the front was a lot easier to score. So I would prefer guys starting on 1 this week, but that's a
Yeah.
small edge. It could be completely useless.
Yeah, I love that. Typically, if guys start quick, a lot of times they'll maintain that momentum and
Yeah.
then turn. The argument is they start on the harder side, make birdies where other guys are struggling for par and bogeys, and they turn around on the easier side and keep it going. So I think there's an argument for both sides. I don't need to give an explanation. This man's going for his 4th first round of the year. Give me Mitchell, last man in the field, plus 5,000. I'll keep doing it until I miss.
Cashmere Keith?
Yep.
Yep. I'm on Keith as well. I actually this week I didn't build like so I didn't build a single first round leader model. I probably will build one when I'm like tired and just is killing me to see what happens. But I just went with my guys who I've just trusted in first round leader markets all year. Cashmere Keith didn't quite get us the one the big one, when who was that? Sam Ryder made me swallow my spit. But
Yeah.
I'm going back to him here. I've been on him I've been on him what for one of his first round leader wins, maybe two. So there's no reason for me not to go. I'll just go into another guy, and that's Steven Yeager. I was on him last week, and I didn't play him first round top 5. I thought that was kind of a better spot for him. But if he just continues to keep playing hot, there's no reason not to be on him. I know I think he's like top 20 in the field, which is not a huge number, but top 20 in total strokes gained in the first round, like over his last like 12 rounds, which is good enough for a 60-1 price.
I'm going to give out one more nugget. There's no reasoning behind it. It's 100% value play because he hasn't played yet this year. Coming off injury, but he's a guy that loves to go low on these types of courses. Not a long hitter, great wedge player, and fantastic putter. Alex Noren, you can get him for 100. You can get him at 100-1 first round.
Alex Thorne, is he coming back off an injury, right?
Yep. So he could be either +10
Yeah.
or do well.
Yeah,
He's
I'm
the type
curious
of
how he's
guy.
actually even in this field. Like, I have no clue how
Yeah,
he's
I
in this
don't get it
field.
either. It's got to be that he has the status and he's finally healthy enough to actually be there, or he's using some sort of medical extension. But I saw his name down there, and I said, "Where the heck's this guy been?" I have no clue. But he actually was playing good golf before the injury, so hey, maybe he comes out. I'm gonna just sprinkle a little bit on him because I would hate to when I looked at it and go, "Oh, that's pretty good value." If I didn't do it, I'd rather him suck and say that I have him.
Yeah. Dude, Norton before he stopped playing, got hurt or whatever, was like, dude, he was cashing 3 balls and at, like, insane prices.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
he'd be like 205 in a 3 ball, and then he'd go out in there and win it by 2, and you're like, "Wow, that was
yep,
fantastic."
yep.
You have another, first round leader in your pocket, Brian, or you just gave out your entire strategy?
I'm my Hovland, Cantlay, Keegan, Berger.
Hell yeah.
Those are
I went with Wyndham, just because I'm not gonna be on him in the outright market. I have to do it. Like, I have to take it. He's cashed us what, 1 first round leader this year, or was it a chop? I think it was a chop.
Yeah.
So going back to him is again. Before we wrap up the show, Brian, we love to ask a little question. So you're tasked to build the best fast food meal. You can stop at different locations for each item: the drink, the side, the entree, the dessert. What's your perfect fast food meal?
right off the back, I think when you think about fast food, you think about burgers, and although they're not in my area, but it is true fast food. I would go Culver's burger, like the double cheeseburger. I think it's very good. It's very good.
Yeah.
Fries, to be honest, like it's hard to beat McDonald's fries when they are right. I don't like waffle fries. Like I'll go McDonald's fries. There. I guess maybe okay, and then we'll throw in here as a side the beefy melt burrito from Taco Bell. They're like 250. It's like meat, cheese, rice,
Yep.
Fritos. It's great. It's great. It's a great meal. And then a drink, whatever. I just water is fine with me. But those are probably like my 3 favorite fast food items, to be honest.
Brad, I feel like Culver's and Taco Bell is the
Super
go-to. Like
popular.
that was totally like I mean Taco Bell for sure. Even though Brian, just my claim to fame, I've never had Taco Bell. Um, it's just I enjoy telling people that, so it keeps me from going there. But yeah, Culver's, man, it's been popping its head up like every other week.
Dude,
Yeah,
I passed by Culver's the other day. We were going to get chicken salad chicken there right next door, and I was like, man, I should just get a burger.
is that the chicken salad chicken that you were upset that they gave you? You didn't get the tenderloins. They gave you the
Yeah.
breasts.
No, I was made it myself. So it's
Okay.
actually the recipe. So I like the I don't even know what the podcast how I built this. I listened to how I built this, and the lady who owns Chicken Salad Chick, the founder, gave out her recipe on there. And bro, her recipe when you make it at home tastes better than in the restaurant. But you have to have the tenderloins. It's
Have
a
to have the
big thing.
tenderloins. Can't
Have
have the breasts.
dude, the breast, it's like chewy. The tenderloins, they like melt in your mouth. Yeah, dude. Like I was really pissed because I ordered the tenderloins and they brought me breasts.
Yeah, that was a famous Brad tweet. I don't know why I remember that, but that was a famous Brad tweet for me when you were upset that you got breasts instead of tenderloins. I won't forget that one.
Yeah, sometimes Twitter's like my little diary. I get air out my grievances on there because I try to tell my wife and she could care less. So at least I put it
Yeah.
on Twitter and get a little sympathy. But yeah, fellas, this was fun. Brian, go ahead and plug anything you want to plug and tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, if you want, you can follow me on Twitter, Brian Kirschner _ tapping birdie, similar podcast to this. We're just talking through the odds board, recapping last week, talk about what's ever happening in golf. But yeah, when I'm glad I came on, and thanks for having me. And when I go to London in a couple weeks. I'll have to get some corner bets.
Yes,
Love the
dude.
corner bets from Brad's first half corners. Whenever I'm with my soccer buddies,
Yeah.
and we're like watching the game, or wherever, I'm like, I'm nuking first corner here, or like I like Tottenham first half corner. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, dude, corner bets, there's a lot of value
Dude,
in
it's a sneaky
those.
market that a lot of people don't play and they don't even spend time on.
Yeah.
Well, everyone listening, if you're listening on podcast form, make sure you download and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, smash the subscribe button and like the show. Everyone take care. Enjoy the tournament.